My sister raised a Bigfoot infant for 3 years in complete secrecy. When trophy hunters finally tracked them down, they found only her camera, covered in blood. What was on that camera changed everything I thought I knew about sacrifice, about family, and about what we're willing to destroy in the name of proof. Some people will call this footage a hoax the government already has. But I held that camera in my hands. I watched every frame. And I know my sister died protecting something the world insists doesn't exist. My name is David Chen. I'm 52 years old, and I've spent the last 25 years working as a documentary filmmaker and wildlife cinematographer. I've filmed grizzlies in Alaska, mountain gorillas in Rwanda, and snow leopards in the Himalayas. I understand how to document the impossible, how to capture moments that exist only in the narrow space between patience and luck. But nothing in my career prepared me for what I discovered 5 years after my sister vanished into the Cascade Mountains. Elena was my older sister by 6 years. Dr. Elena Chen, if you want her full credentials. She was a wildlife veterinarian, spent 15 years working with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife before opening her own rehabilitation center in 2012. She specialized in large mammals, bears mostly, sometimes cougars. Her facility sat on 40 acres of forested land about 90 miles east of Portland, remote enough that injured animals could recover without human stress, isolated enough that Elena could work in peace. She was brilliant, dedicated, and stubborn as hell. The kind of person who'd bottle feed a bear cub every 3 hours for months without complaint, who'd sleep in a barn to monitor a recovering elk, who'd drive 6 hours in a snowstorm because someone found an injured animal that no one else would treat. She disappeared on February 27, 2019. The official report called it a hiking accident. Her car was found at a trailhead in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, 15 miles from her facility. Search and rescue spent 2 weeks combing the area. They found some of her gear, her jacket torn and caught on a branch, her water bottle abandoned near a creek. But they never found her body. The detective assigned to the case told me these things happen in the wilderness. People get disoriented, fall into ravines, get buried by snow. Sometimes the forest just takes people, he said, like that was supposed to be comforting. I didn't believe it then. I believe it even less now. For 5 years, I kept searching. I filed Freedom of Information requests, hired private investigators, interviewed everyone who'd seen Elena in those final months. Her colleagues at Fish and Wildlife remembered her taking a sabbatical in early 2016 for personal research. She'd been vague about the details, said something about studying maternal behavior in large mammals, said she needed time away from the bureaucracy. They thought she was writing a book. I drove to her rehabilitation center dozens of times, walked the property, searched her cabin. The police had cleared it out, cataloged everything, found nothing suspicious. Just the normal equipment of a wildlife veterinarian living alone in the mountains. Last month, I was cleaning out a storage unit I'd been renting since Elena disappeared. Boxes of her belongings that I couldn't bear to sort through. Equipment from my own film projects. Random, accumulated debris of a life spent moving from location to location. At the bottom of a plastic bin, underneath old camera manuals and charging cables, I found a small waterproof Pelican case. The kind photographers use to protect memory cards and sensitive equipment. There was a strip of medical tape on the lid with my name written in Elena's handwriting. Just my name, nothing else. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, cushioned by foam, was a SanDisk Extreme Pro 128GB memory card. I recognized it immediately. Elena and I used the same brand, She'd always been meticulous about labeling her cards, dating them, cataloging what was on them. This one had a label, faded but legible. March 14th, 2016, it read, and below that, in smaller letters, for David. If something happens. I drove home doing 80 miles an hour on back roads, my mind racing faster than the truck. In my studio, I loaded the card into my computer with trembling fingers. The loading bar crawled across the screen. 47 gigabytes of data. Hours of footage. The first file loaded. Elena's face filled my monitor and I started crying before she even spoke. She looked exhausted, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, dirt smudged on her cheek, her brown eyes intense with something I couldn't name. Fear, maybe, or determination, or both. "David," she said, her voice steady despite the fatigue in her face. "If you're watching this, I'm either dead or I've had to disappear completely. What I'm about to show you will sound insane. But I need you to watch everything. I need you to understand. Every frame of this footage is real. Every moment documented. Every decision I made knowing the cost." She paused, seemed to gather herself. On March 3rd, 2016, I found something in the mountains. Something impossible. Something that changed everything. The camera shifted and my breath caught. In Elena's arms, wrapped in what looked like a veterinary blanket, was something small and covered in dark fur. At first, my brain tried to rationalize it, a bear cub maybe, or some exotic animal. But as Elena adjusted the blanket, I saw its face. Flat features, humanoid proportions, eyes too intelligent to be animal. It was an infant, maybe 3 months old, and it was crying. "This is Luna," Elena said softly. 3 days ago I found her mother dead, killed by poachers. High-powered rifles, professional equipment, clean shots. They left her there like she was nothing. And this baby was hiding in the brush, still trying to nurse from a body that was already cold. The camera zoomed in on the infant's face. It looked directly at the lens with dark, aware eyes. "I know what this is," Elena continued. "I know what she is. And David, I know what they'll do to her if anyone finds out she exists. So I made a choice. I'm going to raise her. I'm going to give her a chance. And I'm documenting everything because if something happens to me, someone needs to know the truth." The video ended. I sat in my studio, staring at the black screen, my sister's last words echoing in my head. The timestamp on the file read March 14th, 2016, more than 3 years before she disappeared. There were 73 more video files on that card. I opened the next one and began to watch my sister's secret life unfold. The next video file was dated March 15th, 2016, just 1 day after Elena's initial recording. The timestamp read 3:47 a.m. She was filming in what I recognized as her clinic, the small examination room at the back of her rehabilitation center. The overhead fluorescents cast harsh shadows across her face as she positioned the camera on a tripod. "Luna is critical," Elena said, her voice tight with exhaustion and stress. "Severe dehydration, malnutrition, possible internal injuries from the trauma. I've been giving her subcutaneous fluids every 2 hours. Her temperature dropped to 94.3 degrees when I found her. Normal body temperature for great apes runs between 97 and 99 degrees. I'm assuming similar baseline, but I'm working blind here. There's no veterinary literature for this, nothing even close." The camera angle shifted to show the examination table. Luna lay on her side, so small and fragile under the medical blanket. IV lines ran from her tiny arm. A pulse oximeter was clipped to one finger, the monitor beeping steadily. Elena's hands, gloved and steady despite her obvious fear, checked the infant's vitals with practiced efficiency. Respiratory rate is 36 breaths per minute, Elena narrated. Heart rate, 118. She's fighting. God, she's fighting so hard. I watched 40 hours of footage over the next 3 days. Elena had documented everything with the same meticulous precision she brought to all her work. Each video was labeled with date, time, and subject. Feeding attempts, vital signs, weight measurements, behavioral observations. She'd created a medical chart, filmed it, updated it daily. Luna's weight at intake, 14.2 pounds. Length, 22 inches. Estimated age, based on developmental markers and comparison with great ape infants, 12 to 14 weeks old. The early videos were clinical, almost cold. Elena, the professional veterinarian, documenting an unprecedented case. But I could see the cracks forming in that professional distance, the way her voice softened when Luna cried, the way her hands lingered just a moment longer than necessary when checking the infant's reflexes, the way she started talking to Luna between observations, narrating what she was doing in a gentle, almost maternal tone. Formula trial number 7, Elena said in a video dated March 28th. Previous attempts with standard primate formulas caused digestive distress. This version is modified with higher fat content, added colostrum supplement, digestive enzymes. Her protein requirements seem closer to gorilla infants than chimpanzees, but her metabolism is faster. She needs feeding every 3 hours. The camera showed Luna taking a bottle, her small hands wrapping around it with surprising strength. She was alert now, her dark eyes tracking Elena's movements. When the bottle was empty, she made a sound. Not quite human, not quite animal. Something in between. A soft, chirping vocalization that made Elena smile despite her obvious exhaustion. "That's my girl," Elena murmured, forgetting for a moment that the camera was recording. "You're going to make it. I promise." By April, Luna had gained 15 pounds. The growth rate was staggering. Elena's notes showed concern and wonder in equal measure. "She's developing faster than any primate species on record," Elena said in one video. "At this rate, she'll be walking within 6 weeks. Her cognitive development is even more remarkable. She watches everything I do, mimics my gestures. Yesterday, I showed her how to touch an object, then touch my chest. A simple communication exercise. Within an hour, she was doing it unprompted. Choosing objects, touching them, then touching herself. She's making connections, she's learning." I paused the footage and pulled up Elena's veterinary records from that period. She'd told her colleagues at Fish and Wildlife she needed time for her sabbatical research. Her last official case had been in late February 2016, a black bear with a broken leg. After that, nothing. She'd essentially disappeared from professional life, citing her need to focus on personal projects. Her friends had been concerned, but not alarmed. Elena had always been independent, driven, comfortable with solitude. But I found something else in those records. Purchase orders. Elena had used her professional credentials to order supplies through veterinary distributors. Specialized formula components, medical equipment. Nothing that would raise flags individually, but together they painted a picture. Someone meticulous enough could track the pattern. Someone looking for exactly this kind of anomaly could follow the thread. I returned to the videos. May 2016. Luna was thriving now. The camera showed her taking her first wobbly steps across Elena's living room floor, her small hands reaching for furniture to steady herself. Elena filmed from the couch, and I could hear the tears in her voice even though I couldn't see her face. "Look at you," Elena whispered. "Look at you go." The video that changed everything came from June 18th. Elena had mounted a camera on her truck's dashboard. The footage showed her driving down the forest road that led to her property, returning from a supply run to the nearest town 40 miles away. As she approached the turnoff to her driveway, she slowed. A dark green truck was parked on the shoulder about a quarter-mile from her gate. Not unusual. People parked along forest roads all the time for hiking or hunting, but something about it made Elena stop her truck 200 yards back. The dashboard camera captured her sitting there for 20 minutes, engine idling, watching. The green truck didn't move. No one got out. No one got in. It just sat there, windows tinted too dark to see inside. Finally, Elena put her truck in reverse and backed up to a wider spot in the road. She turned around and drove back the way she came, taking a longer alternate route to her property that added 45 minutes to her trip. "I don't know that vehicle," Elena said to the camera once she was safely back at her cabin. "I know every truck that uses this road. Rangers, loggers, the few neighbors I have, that's not one of them. And they were parked exactly where they'd have a clear view of my gate." The video showed her checking the windows, making sure all the curtains were drawn. In the background, I could hear Luna making soft sounds from another room, content and unaware. "I'm probably being paranoid," Elena continued, but her face said she didn't believe that. "I need to be more careful. The supply orders, the isolation, someone could put it together if they were paying attention. I need to assume someone is paying attention. She was right to be afraid. I know that now, because when I dug through 5 years of investigation notes, when I tracked down every lead the police had ignored, I found that green truck, found the company it belonged to, found the men who'd been inside it. And I learned they'd been watching my sister for months, waiting for their moment, building their case that she was hiding something worth taking." Elena ended that video with a promise. "From now on, I'll vary my routes, change my patterns, be smarter about this. Luna depends on me. I won't let her down." But she was already in their sights, the trap was already closing, and my sister, brilliant and dedicated and impossibly brave, was about to make choices that would cost her everything. By October 2016, Luna was 7 months old and already the size of a human 3-year-old. The video showed her moving through Elena's cabin with growing confidence, her reddish-brown fur now thick and lustrous, her dark eyes bright with intelligence that seemed to grow sharper every day. She understood simple commands. "Come here, sit down, be quiet." But it was more than obedience. Luna was learning in ways that shouldn't have been possible for an infant her age. Elena had started teaching her basic sign language. I watched video after video of my sister sitting on the floor with Luna, patiently demonstrating signs. More. Please. Thank you. Food. Water. Mother. That last one made my chest tighten. Luna would touch Elena's face, then sign the word. Mother. Over and over, making sure Elena understood. "She's learned 40 signs in the last 2 months," Elena said in a video dated October 3rd. "Her comprehension is extraordinary. Yesterday, I was looking for my keys. I said the word aloud, just talking to myself." Luna walked to the counter, picked them up, and brought them to me. She's making connections between spoken words and objects, between cause and effect, between her needs and how to communicate them. The camera showed Luna sitting at the kitchen table, which Elena had modified with a booster seat. The infant was eating cut fruit with her fingers, carefully placing each piece in her mouth, watching Elena prepare dinner. When Elena turned around, Luna signed, "More apple." "Please." "Good girl," Elena said, her voice thick with emotion. "Such a good girl." I found Elena's written journals from this period tucked in a box with the camera card. The journals were more personal than the videos, filled with thoughts she couldn't bring herself to say on camera. One entry, dated October 15th, broke my heart. She calls me Mother. In her own way, she calls me Mother. What have I done? She'll never be able to return to her kind. But what kind? Where are they? I'm raising her for a life of complete isolation. She'll never have a family beyond me. She'll never belong anywhere. I look at her sleeping, and I wonder if I saved her, or if I'm just prolonging an inevitable tragedy. But then she wakes up and signs good morning and hugs me. And I know I'd make the same choice 1,000 times over. The breakthrough came on October 23rd. Elena's helmet camera captured the moment. She was hiking with Luna, teaching her about the forest, showing her which plants were safe to eat, how to find water, how to move quietly through undergrowth. They were about 2 miles from the cabin when Luna suddenly stopped. Her whole body went rigid. She made a sound Elena had never heard before, a long, rising call that echoed through the trees. "Luna, what is it?" Elena asked, her voice concerned. The camera showed her kneeling beside the infant, checking for injuries, for signs of distress. Luna called again, and this time something answered. The sound came from deep in the forest, maybe a 1/4 mile away. Low and resonant, it rumbled through the air like distant thunder. Luna's face transformed. She looked toward the sound with an expression I can only describe as longing. She took off running before Elena could stop her. "Luna, wait!" Elena shouted, chasing after her. The helmet camera footage bounced wildly as she ran, branches whipping past, her breathing harsh and labored. They ran for nearly 10 minutes before reaching a hidden valley I'd never seen in all my visits to Elena's property. The valley was small, maybe 100 yards across, surrounded by old-growth cedars and Douglas firs so thick they formed a natural wall. And standing at the far edge, partially hidden in shadow, were figures. Bigfoots. Multiple Bigfoots. Maybe a dozen of them. Elena stopped running. The camera captured her standing at the valley entrance, Luna at her side. The infant was making soft sounds, almost words, calling to the figures across the clearing. One of them stepped forward into better light. A massive male, easily 8 feet tall, with dark brown fur and broad shoulders. His face was scarred, old wounds that had healed badly. He stared at Elena with eyes that held depths of emotion I wouldn't have thought possible. "They've been watching," Elena whispered to the camera. "Oh my God, they've been watching us this whole time. They know I have Luna." Luna moved forward, but the big male made a sharp sound, a warning. She stopped immediately, looking back at Elena with confusion and hurt in her eyes. Elena knelt beside her, one hand on the infant's shoulder. "It's okay," Elena said softly. "They're afraid. They don't trust humans." Can you blame them? For nearly an hour they stood there. Elena didn't move closer. The Bigfoots didn't approach. But they watched, studying Elena, studying Luna. The big male never took his eyes off them. In the videos from later that night, Elena tried to process what she'd seen. "Luna's father," she said, her voice quiet and certain. "That's who he is, I'm sure of it. The way he looked at her, the way she responded to him. He survived whatever attack killed her mother. He's been searching for her. And now he knows she's with me, but he won't come closer. He won't risk it. He's seen what humans do." Over the following weeks, Luna led Elena back to the valley 3 more times. Each time, the Bigfoots were there, watching from a distance, never approaching. The big male was always present, always vigilant. Luna would call to him, sign to him, trying to bridge the gap. But he wouldn't cross it. Elena's journal entry from November 10th showed her growing despair. Luna is caught between 2 worlds, and it's my fault. She can't go back to them because they see her as contaminated by human contact. But she can't live in the human world either, because the moment anyone knows what she is, she becomes a target. I've condemned her to isolation. And the worst part is, I can't let her go. I love her too much. She's my daughter in every way that matters. What kind of mother chooses her own need over her child's welfare? Winter came hard and fast that year. Heavy snows buried the forest from November through February, cutting them off completely from the outside world. Elena's videos showed the 2 of them settling into a quiet routine, reading books together. Luna loved picture books, would sign the names of animals she recognized, playing games, cooking meals. In the isolation of winter, they became a complete family unit, just the 2 of them against the cold. But I found something else during my investigation into that period. Delivery records. Elena had packages delivered to her gate, never allowing drivers to come up to the cabin. One driver I interviewed remembered something that made my blood run cold. She was real particular about leaving stuff at the gate, the driver told me. Never wanted me to come up. But one time, summer of 2017, I was curious. I had binoculars in my truck. After I dropped the package, I pulled over about a mile up the road and glassed her property. I saw her walking near the tree line with what I thought was a really big kid in a fur coat. Didn't make sense in July, but I figured maybe it was some kind of costume. Mentioned it to my supervisor. He told me to mind my own business, said someone else had already asked about that address and been told the same thing. Someone else had asked. Someone was already tracking Elena's strange behavior. And in March 2017, she found proof. The video showed her discovering trail cameras hidden on trees near her property. Professional equipment, camouflaged, positioned to watch the approaches to her cabin. She removed them carefully, brought them home, checked the memory cards. "They're empty," Elena said to the camera, her face pale. "Whoever put these here already downloaded the footage. They've been watching. They know something's here. I don't know how much time we have left." When she went back the next day with tools to find more cameras, they were already gone. Someone had removed them overnight. Someone was always one step ahead. And my sister knew with terrible certainty that the life she'd built with Luna was living on borrowed time. Luna was 18 months old in the spring of 2017, nearly 5 feet tall, moving with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. The videos showed her cognitive abilities advancing far beyond what Elena had anticipated. She could solve complex puzzles, understand abstract concepts, even display what Elena called emotional intelligence that rivaled adult humans. But she was also struggling with something Elena hadn't expected: trauma. The nightmares started in April. Elena's night vision camera captured Luna waking in terror, crying out in the darkness, signing frantically. "Mother, gone." Loud sound. Over and over the same sequence. Elena would rush in, hold her, rock her until the trembling stopped. But the nightmares kept coming. She remembers, Elena said in a video dated April 19th, her eyes red from lack of sleep. She remembers her mother being killed. She was there. She saw it happen. "I've been so focused on keeping her alive, on teaching her, that I didn't realize she's been carrying this trauma the entire time." she has PTSD. A toddler with PTSD from witnessing her mother's murder. Elena threw herself into research on trauma in primates, on therapeutic techniques for young children who'd witnessed violence. She started using play therapy, having Luna act out scenarios with stuffed animals. At first, Luna refused, but eventually she began to use the toys to show Elena what she'd seen. The camera captured one session that made me have to pause the footage and walk away. Luna arranged 3 large stuffed bears in a clearing of toys. Then she took a stick, pointed it at them, and made a sharp sound with her mouth. Bang! The bears fell. She picked up a small stuffed monkey and hid it under a blanket, making quiet crying sounds. Then she looked at Elena with eyes full of pain that no child should have to carry. "That's what happened," Elena said softly. "That's what you saw. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry." Luna came to her then, crawling into her lap despite her size, and signed a question that broke both of us. Why hurt Mother? Elena had no answer that wouldn't indict her entire species. She just held Luna and cried. But Luna's trauma manifested in other ways too. She became intensely protective of Elena. If Elena left the cabin for supplies, Luna would wait by the window, agitated and distressed until she returned. If they encountered any unexpected sound in the forest, Luna would immediately position herself between Elena and the potential threat, despite being barely 2 years old. She'd learned that the world was dangerous, that the ones you love could be taken from you in an instant, and she was determined not to let it happen again. Elena's journal entries from that summer showed her own growing desperation to help Luna heal while preparing her for a future that terrified them both. "I'm teaching her to fear my own kind," one entry read. "Every day, we practice recognizing human scents, identifying the sounds of vehicles and guns, understanding that she must hide, must run, must never let herself be seen. I'm training her for a life of constant vigilance and terror. What kind of childhood is this? But what choice do I have? If I don't teach her these things, she'll die. If I do teach her, she'll live in fear forever. There's no good option. There's no way to give her both safety and peace." In November 2017, Luna led Elena back to the valley where the other Bigfoots gathered. The helmet camera footage showed the big male much closer this time, only about 30 yards away. He was watching Luna with an intensity that made Elena's breath catch. Luna moved toward him, signing, trying to communicate. She'd learned the touch gesture, the one Elena had taught her. Luna touched a tree, then her own chest, then pointed to the male. "She's telling him she belongs here," Elena whispered to the camera. "She's saying this forest is her home, and he's her family." The male Bigfoot watched for a long moment. Then, slowly, he mimicked the gesture, touched a tree, touched his own chest, and then, with movements careful and deliberate, he turned his back to Elena and lifted his arm. His fur was matted and scarred along his left side. Deep grooves ran across his ribs. Bullet wounds, old but unmistakable. He was showing Elena what humans had done to him, why he couldn't trust, why he couldn't come closer, even for his daughter. "Oh God," Elena breathed. "You were there. You were there when they killed her. You saw it too." The male turned back to face them. He made a sound, low and mournful, filled with grief that transcended species. Then he did something that made Elena gasp. He reached out one massive hand and touched a tree between them. Then he touched his chest. Then he pointed to Luna. Then he pointed to Elena. The message was clear. Protect her. Keep her safe. "I can't, but you can. I will," Elena said, her voice fierce with promise. I swear to you, I will." The male watched them for another moment, then retreated into the shadows. But over the following months, Elena found signs that he was nearby: stacked stones near the cabin, broken branches arranged in patterns. He was watching over them from a distance, a father who couldn't be present but refused to abandon his child completely. By September 2018, Luna was nearly 3 years old and showing reasoning abilities that astonished Elena. She could plan ahead, understand cause and effect chains multiple steps deep, even display what looked like self-awareness and theory of mind. The videos showed her playing hide-and-seek with Elena, deliberately choosing hiding spots based on where Elena had already looked, understanding that Elena had her own perspective and thoughts. But that same month, everything started to fall apart. Elena was hiking near her property line when she found something that made her blood run cold. Tranquilizer darts, still in their packaging, hidden in a waterproof bag under a fallen log. Professional equipment, the kind used for capturing large, dangerous animals alive. The camera shook as Elena examined them. "These are for bears," she said, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Grizzly bears. 800, 900 pounds. They found these this morning, which means someone was scouting this area recently. Someone who wants to capture something large. Something they want alive." She looked directly into the camera, her face pale. "They don't want to kill Luna. They want to take her. Put her in a cage, study her, display her, profit from her. And that's so much worse than death, because death would at least be quick." Elena spent the next weeks in a state of hypervigilance, checking the perimeter of her property daily, varying her routines, teaching Luna emergency protocols. If you see strangers, hide. If you hear vehicles, run to the deep forest. If I tell you to go, you go immediately. No questions. Luna learned the drills, practiced them, but I could see in the videos that she didn't fully understand why. She was still young enough to believe that Elena could protect her from anything. Elena knew better. Her final journal entry from that period, dated October the 15th, 2018, showed she understood exactly what was coming. "They're closing in. I can feel it. Every supply order I make, every trip to town, every moment I spend outside these walls, I'm leaving traces they can follow. The trap is tightening, and I walked into it myself by trying to give Luna everything she needs. I have maybe 4 months before they're ready to move. 4 months to figure out how to get her somewhere safe. 4 months to prepare to lose the only family I have left. 4 months to accept that saving her means sacrificing myself. Because that's what this is going to come down to. Her life or mine. And there's no universe where I choose differently." December 2018 marked the beginning of the end. Elena's videos took on an urgency I'd never seen before. Her movements sharper, her words more carefully chosen, like someone preparing for a departure they know they won't return from. The camera showed her with maps spread across her kitchen table, topographical charts of the Cascade Range, marking routes that led deeper and deeper into wilderness where roads didn't go and helicopter flights couldn't follow. "We're leaving," Elena told the camera on December 3rd. "Not to a different house or a different town. We're going to the deep wilderness, to the places where humans don't go. Luna's father showed me the way. There's a valley, maybe 60 miles from here, where the others gather sometimes. It's remote enough that Luna can live there. She can be with her own kind, she can be free." The camera panned to Luna, now almost 7 feet tall, sitting on the floor and carefully packing supplies into a backpack Elena had modified for her size. She moved with purpose, selecting items, testing weights, organizing with a methodical intelligence that still seemed impossible for someone not yet 3 years old. "We run?" Luna signed to Elena, her dark eyes serious. "We go to Father," Elena signed back. "You safe?" Luna's hands moved again, forming the question that had haunted both of them. "You come?" Elena's face crumpled for just a moment before she composed herself. "No," she signed. "You go to Father. You stay safe. I stay here." Luna dropped the backpack and moved to Elena, wrapping her long arms around her. The camera, still recording from the tripod, captured them holding each other in the quiet cabin while snow fell outside the windows. Luna was crying, making soft, distressed sounds that tore at something deep in my chest. She understood. Maybe not the full scope of what was coming, but she understood they were saying goodbye. Over the next 2 months, Elena trained Luna for survival in ways that went far beyond anything she'd taught before. The videos showed them hiking in brutal winter conditions, Luna learning to navigate by landmarks, to find shelter, to recognize danger from miles away. Elena taught her which berries were safe, how to catch fish through ice, how to build a nest in trees like her father's people did. Every lesson was delivered with an intensity that said there would be no second chances, no opportunity to correct mistakes. January 2019 brought close calls that terrified Elena. Twice, she found boot prints near her property that didn't match any of her neighbors. Once, she heard an engine idling on the forest road at 2 a.m., just sitting there for an hour before driving away. The videos showed her burning documents, destroying hard drives, eliminating any evidence of Luna's existence except for the recordings she'd already sent to me. "By the time you watch this, little brother," Elena said in a video dated January 20th, her face gaunt from stress and lack of sleep, "I'll have erased everything. My research notes, my medical charts, every piece of documentation except these videos. The only proof Luna exists will be what's on these memory cards. And I'm trusting you with them because if anyone's going to tell this story, it should be you. You'll know what to do. You'll know when the time is right." She pulled out her wallet and showed the camera a photo I remembered taking. Elena and I as kids, maybe 10 and 16, standing on the beach at Cannon Rock. Both of us sunburned and grinning, our whole lives ahead of us. "Tell Mom and Dad I love them," Elena said quietly. "Tell them I'm sorry I couldn't say goodbye. Tell them this wasn't about running away from them. It was about running towards something more important than my own life." On February 21st, Elena recorded what I thought was her final message. The cabin was nearly empty, stripped of personal belongings, looking already abandoned. Luna stood beside her, dressed in weatherproof gear Elena had modified, a pack on her back, ready for the journey. "This is it," Elena said to the camera. "Tomorrow we leave, 50 miles through some of the most rugged terrain in the Cascades. It'll take us 3 days if the weather holds. Luna's father is waiting. He sent signs, the stacked stones, the broken branches. He knows we're coming. He'll take her. He'll keep her safe, and I'll lead anyone following us in the opposite direction. Away from her, away from the valley. As far away as I can get them before they realize she's gone." Luna signed to the camera, her movements precise. "Mother brave," she signed. "Luna, love, mother, forever." Elena's composure finally broke. She pulled Luna close, pressing her face against the thick reddish fur, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "Forever," she signed back when she could. "Forever, baby girl." The journey began on February 22nd. Elena's helmet camera documented 3 days of brutal hiking through snow and ice. Luna moved beside her with growing confidence, her size and strength making the treacherous terrain easier than it was for Elena. They crossed frozen rivers, climbed steep ridges, navigated through forests so dense the sun barely penetrated. At night, they sheltered in caves or dense thickets, Luna's body heat keeping them both warm. But they weren't alone. Elena's camera caught signs of pursuit on the second day, boot prints in the snow behind them, maybe 4 hours back. Engine sounds echoing through the valleys, snowmobiles searching. She pushed them harder, taking steeper routes, more dangerous paths, anything to increase their lead. On February 24th, they reached the valley. Elena's camera captured the moment of arrival, the sun breaking through clouds to illuminate a hidden basin surrounded by cliffs and old growth forest. And there, waiting at the tree line, was Luna's father with 2 other Bigfoots beside him. A small family, but a family nonetheless. Luna ran to him, calling out in that language of sounds and gestures Elena had documented over the years. The big male caught her, lifted her, held her like she weighed nothing. He made sounds I'd never heard in any of the previous videos, gentle and warm, unmistakably expressing love and relief. Elena stood at the edge of the valley, filming, tears streaming down her face. Luna turned back to her, signed the words they'd practiced. Mother, love, forever, save. Elena signed back with shaking hands. Forever. Be good, stay hidden, live free. Luna's father approached then, closer than he'd ever come to Elena before. He stopped about 10 feet away and did something extraordinary. He placed one massive hand on a tree, then on his chest, then reached out toward Elena. Not quite touching, but the gesture was clear. Thank you. You saved her. You protected her when I couldn't. Elena nodded, unable to speak. The male turned and began leading Luna and the others deeper into the valley, toward the cliffs where I could just make out cave entrances hidden behind waterfalls and hanging moss. Luna looked back 3 times, signing Mother each time, before finally disappearing into the wilderness that would become her home. Elena's camera captured her standing alone in that valley for nearly an hour, watching the place where Luna had vanished, memorizing every detail. Then she turned and began hiking back the way they'd come. But not toward home, toward the sounds of engines and the tracks of hunters, drawing them away from her daughter, leading them on a chase that could only end one way. The timestamp on that video was February 24th, 2019, 4:47 p.m. 3 days later, she would be dead. The memory card Elena sent me ended with that footage of her standing alone in the valley. But there were 3 more days before anyone reported her missing. 3 days that haunted me for 5 years until I finally pieced together what happened in those final hours. The police investigation was superficial at best, deliberately incomplete at worst. They found her car, some scattered gear, and declared it a hiking accident. Case closed. But I kept searching. I tracked down every piece of evidence the police ignored or never found. I hiked every mile of terrain between that valley and where they claimed she disappeared. And in a ravine 8 miles from the official search area, hidden under deadfall and spring growth, I found Elena's second camera. The one she never sent me, the one that documented her last day alive. The footage was damaged, corrupted in places, but enough remained to tell the story. February 25th. Elena was hiking fast, deliberately leaving a trail, broken branches, disturbed snow, boot prints deep and obvious. She was making herself easy to follow, drawing the hunters away from the valley where Luna was safe. The camera captured her stopping periodically to check behind her, listening for sounds of pursuit. "They're following," she said to the camera at one point, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. 2 snowmobiles, maybe 3. I've led them 15 miles in the wrong direction. By the time they realize Luna isn't with me, she'll be unreachable. Her father will have taken her deep into the caves. They'll never find her. The footage jumped forward several hours. Elena was moving slower now, exhausted, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She'd been hiking for nearly 30 hours straight with minimal rest. But she kept going, kept leaving that obvious trail, kept pulling the hunters further from Luna. February 26th. The camera showed Elena's hands shaking as she filmed. She'd reached the end of her planned route, a series of cliffs and ravines that would be nearly impossible to traverse. She couldn't go further, and behind her, the engine sounds were growing closer. "If you're watching this, David," Elena said directly to the camera, her face appearing on screen, "I want you to know. I'm not afraid. I'm not sad. Luna is safe. That's all that matters. She's with her father. She's with her people. She'll grow up free. She'll never be caged or studied or turned into proof for people who would only use that proof to hunt down the rest of her kind. I gave her that. And that's enough." She paused, seemed to gather her thoughts. "Tell our story. When the time is right, when you think the world might actually listen instead of just hunting, tell them what happened. Show them these videos. Make them understand what we destroyed, what we're still destroying. Make them see that some secrets are worth dying to protect." The footage ended there, but I found the 3rd camera in the ravine, the one that must have fallen from her pack during what came next. Its memory card held the final 15 minutes. The footage was chaotic, the camera lying on its side in the snow, lens pointing up at the gray sky. But the audio was clear, the sound of snowmobiles cutting their engines, multiple male voices, footsteps crunching through snow. Then Elena's voice, defiant and strong. "Where is it?" a man demanded. "Where's the creature?" "Gone," Elena replied. "Somewhere you'll never find her. You're lying. We tracked your purchasing patterns for 2 years. We know you've been feeding something, caring for something. We have photos of tracks around your property. Where is it?" "With her family," Elena said. "In places you can't follow. Protected by beings who know these mountains better than you ever could. You're too late. You lost." There was a long silence. Then a different voice, colder. "Then you're useless to us." The sound that followed made me drop the camera the first time I listened to it. A gunshot. Then another. Then silence broken only by the wind. The men's voices returned, arguing, panicked, discussing what to do with the body. One wanted to report it as an accident. Another insisted they had to keep searching. The third, the cold-voiced one, said something that made my blood freeze. "We dispose of her. We tell no one. We keep looking. That creature is out there somewhere, and it's worth millions. This setback doesn't change anything." Footsteps, movement, the camera, still recording, captured nothing but empty sky for another 3 hours before the battery died. I took that camera to the police. They refused to reopen the case, claimed the audio was inconclusive, that I could have fabricated it. I went to the FBI. They said, without a body, without suspects, there was nothing to investigate. I realized then that Elena had been right. Some forces didn't want the truth exposed. Too many people had too much invested in keeping Bigfoot a myth, a joke, a conspiracy theory. Because acknowledging they existed would mean acknowledging the hunting, the killing, the systematic elimination of a sentient species. So I made a choice. I verified Elena's footage was authentic. 3 separate forensic video analysts confirmed the recording showed no evidence of manipulation or CGI. I identified the hunters. One had died in what authorities called a hunting accident in 2020. Another vanished in 2021, disappeared in the same mountains he'd once stalked. The third was in prison for wildlife trafficking. None were ever charged with Elena's murder. The evidence mysteriously disappeared from police custody. Last month, I returned to that hidden valley where Elena left Luna 5 years ago. I brought offerings like my sister used to do: apples, medical supplies wrapped in waterproof containers. I left them in specific spots and hiked to a ridge where I could watch without intruding. For 3 days, I waited. On the 4th morning, I saw them. 3 Bigfoots moving through the valley below. 2 adults and 1 younger one, maybe 8 years old, with reddish-brown fur that caught the early light. Luna. She was alive. She'd survived. She was thriving with her family in the deep wilderness. I didn't try to get closer, didn't call out, didn't film. Elena had given everything to protect their privacy, their safety. I wouldn't betray that, but I sat there on that ridge and spoke to the forest. Told them I was Elena's brother. Told them I knew the truth. Told them I would protect their secret even as I shared their story. Movement in the trees below. Luna emerged into a clearing, looking directly at where I sat half a mile away. Could she see me? Did she remember the human who'd raised her? She moved to a flat rock and placed something there carefully. Then she stepped back and signed, clear and deliberate even at that distance. "Brother, thank you. Mother's safe now." She remembered. After all these years, she remembered the sign language Elena had taught her. She remembered she had a mother who loved her enough to die for her. After Luna disappeared back into the forest, I hiked down to the rock. There, I found Elena's old veterinary bag, weathered but preserved, with a photo inside that made me fall to my knees. Elena and Luna together, Elena's arms around the young Bigfoot, both of them smiling at the camera. Luna had kept it all these years, saved it, and now she was returning it to family, completing a circle that began with rescue and ended with sacrifice. Tonight, these videos go live. I'm uploading them to every platform I can access simultaneously. The government will deny them. Skeptics will call them fake, but the evidence is there. Elena's meticulous documentation, the forensic verification, the testimony I've gathered, the physical evidence Luna left for me. Together, they tell a story the world needs to hear. My sister didn't die in a hiking accident. She died protecting a species we've spent generations trying to erase. She died giving one orphaned infant a chance at freedom. She died proving that family isn't about species or biology. It's about who you'd sacrifice everything to save. Somewhere in the Cascade Mountains, a family of Bigfoots lives free because one woman refused to look away from suffering, even when mercy cost her everything. Luna is alive. She's with her people. She remembers the mother who saved her. And now, through these recordings, the world will remember Elena too. This footage is dedicated to Dr. Elena Chen and the countless others who gave their lives protecting species we refuse to acknowledge exist. The forest remembers them. And now, finally, so will we.